Right, so a downtick coming in as far as oil prices are concerned, and also gold on the other hand. But moving on to some more macro data that is coming out of the US. Now, inflation in the US is running hotter than expected. The consumer price index jumped 0.4% in August. That's the sharpest increase since January this year, lifting the annual rate to 2.9%. Rising shelter, food and energy costs, these are the factors that drove much of the gain. Now, at the same time, the Labour Department also reported a surprise jump in unemployment claims. Now, 263,000 Americans filed last week. That's the highest level since October 2021 and well above expectations. Now, this mix of higher prices and weaker jobs, this creates a complicated backdrop for Federal Reserve. Now, policymakers meet September 17th to decide their next move on interest rates. Now, amid a slowing economy, Andrew Ferris is also calling for Fed rate cuts. Let's listen in to his comments.
I was the Fed. I will not cut rates. But the Fed will need to cut rates, okay, because they're under pressure now that the economy is not doing very well in terms of the labor market. But at least inflation is absolutely clearly accelerating. It's not coming down. The impact of input duties have not yet been passed through. It has been both expectations and what has happened in the past. In other words, prices just don't simply jump up because you put a 50% input duty on certain goods. So I'm going to stick my neck out. Okay, if you are asking me what the Fed is going to do, well, I think they are under tremendous pressure to cut interest rates. I think that will be a very bad move, really very poor move. Okay, because the cuts in interest rates are going to take quite a while to impact the labor market, but they will have a much faster impact potentially on demand and on potentially, of course, on the stock market.
And while the U.S. is warming up to India, Ambassador-designate Sergio Gore told senators that trade talks will begin next week in Washington, and the President Trump is inviting India's commerce ministers. Gore said a deal could be finalized within weeks, calling India a strategic partner whose trajectory will shape the region. Now, Senator Marco Rubio also echoed that view, flagging India as a top relationship for America's future, particularly in countering China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. Both leaders stressed defense, energy, technology as pillars of the partnership. Let's go across and listen in to those excerpts.
I'm here to introduce a fellow Floridian and someone who I've known for a very long time, Sergio Gore, who is the nominee to India, which is, I would say, one of the top relationships the United States has in the world today in terms of the future of what the world's going to look like. I said it when I appeared before you as a nominee to the position I currently hold as well.
We might have our moment of hiccups right now. We are on the track of resolving that. Our relationship with the Indian government, with the people of India, extends many more decades, and it's a much warmer relationship than they have with the Chinese. Frankly, they are concerned by Chinese expansionism. And Chinese expansionism is not just on the border of India, it's all over the area. We will make that a top priority, that India is pulled into our side and away from them. President Trump has been crystal clear on this. They must stop buying Russian oil. And I believe almost every single member of this committee has co-sponsored Senator Graham's legislation, which has proposed a 500% tariff on secondary purchase and reselling of Russian oil. The president has only imposed a 25% tariff, and he's fully encouraging also European partners and others around the world to stop that. Our tariffs work if our partners around the world are on the same page. If we're unilaterally putting tariffs on someone, but they're able to buy the same oil and resell the same oil through China, through India, through Brazil, that's a problem.
All right, so that's the latest official word coming on India and U.S. ties. But moving on to some more global stories. First up, let's take stock of how the IMF is positioning U.S. economy. Now, the International Monetary Fund says that the U.S. economy is showing new strains after years of resilience. Domestic demand is slowing, job growth is weakening, and a major labor revision found that fewer jobs were created through March. Now, IMF spokesperson Julie Kozak has warned that Tariffs imposed under the Trump administration are adding upside risks to inflation, despite progress towards Fed's 2% target. Now, the IMF says that there is scope for rate cuts, but urged caution ahead of the US review in November.
All right, let's move on to the top headlines, quick fatafats for the hour. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby says Spirit Airlines is doomed. Speaking at an industry conference, he predicted Spirit will go out of business, quipping, "Because I'm good at math." Spirit filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last month. Its second in a year. A high cost and weak demand crushed its discount model. Kirby blasted the low-fare, high-fee approach, saying, "You can't have a business model that customers hate." And Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella is promising change. In an online meeting last evening, he acknowledged the company must rebuild trust with employees after layoffs and a mandated return to office. Nadella told staff, "We can do better and we will do better." Microsoft, remember, had cut 9,000 jobs in July, and starting February, workers near the headquarters will need to be in office 3 days a week. Leadership says the feedback is mixed. Some feel they're losing autonomy, while others welcome more collaboration.
Next up, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has been sentenced to 27 years in prison after a landmark conviction for plotting a coup. Bolsonaro blasted the decision as a witch hunt and vowed to fight on. Now, despite being barred from the office, he insists that he will run in Brazil's 2026 presidential elections. Next up, Gemini, the crypto exchange founded by Winklevoss twins, has priced its IPO at $28 per share, valuing the company at about $3.3 billion. Now, adding to the momentum, Nasdaq invested $50 million that's aiming to integrate Gemini's custody services and its Calypso trading platform.
And European Trade Commissioner Marcos